Hello, and welcome to At Your End Step. My name is Morgan, and I'm here with Mike.
Hello.
And we have another fun-filled episode for you folks this week. Before we get started, we want to give a quick shout-out to, of course, all of our lovely patrons out there. Thank you so much for supporting us on Patreon, and if you want to join the club, you sure can. You can go to patreon.com/atyourendstep to donate to the show on a episode basis, and we really appreciate all of our current patrons. You help us keep the lights on and keep the show up and running, so we appreciate it.
Do you know what club I always wanted to be a part of when I was a kid?
No.
It's the Burger King Kids Club.
That man only has one eyeball.
I don't care. He was Cyclops for a different age, but yeah, the BK Kids Club had the coolest mascots and people. Like, you could be a Fry Guy. You go be a Grimace, I guess. Or you could join the BK Kids Club.
I mean, you could do that. That could be a thing that you do. I agree.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, if you also want to join the BK Kids Club, join our Patreon, and that's like being in the BK Kids Club.
We have no association with Burger King or any sort of affiliation, promotional aspect.
Burger King no longer has a Burger King Kids Club, so it's okay. So I think it's just out there for us to take. Yeah, and they stopped doing that in 1999.
I mean...
Okay, here's the names of the kids. Kid Vid, that's Cyclops.
Yeah.
IQ, Lingo, Jaws, Snaps, Wheels. And that's the one in a wheelchair. That's not... I take it back. That's a bad club. You name kids in a bad way. Boomer. They also had a dog named JD. Gosh, hold on here. Like, why are their kids... I get, like, the naming convention...
Yeah.
Gosh, that Wheels is a tough one. That's a tough one.
Yeah, you know, again, we have no association with Burger King.
Yeah, you know what? Never mind. Also, they have the exact same faces.
Ooh, they really do. You just keep going. You're like,
I bet Kid Vid does too, but they put that singular eyeglass on. I was gonna say glasses, but it's just one. It's like a real long monocle.
Yeah, I don't understand how that works necessarily, but here we are, trying to figure out how does it stay on his face?
It goes around the ears, and it does rest on his nose technically.
Okay.
I don't know. He's got a flip cell phone though, and he was from 1989, so Kid Vid knew.
Now, to be fair, the way that it's drawn and the way that he's tilted, it could just be a CD player.
Or a pager. I don't really know.
Or a pager. He also has two pouches on his leg for, like, I don't know, snacks.
He's got he's got those pouches. I don't know. Well,
I have a lot of questions and not a lot of answers because they don't do that no more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well then, I didn't want to be a part of the BK Kids Club, to be perfectly honest, so. Mainly because I don't know, we didn't... the only time we went to Burger King a lot was when they had the Pokemon promotion, and you get, like, the solid gold Pokemon things in the Pokeballs. That was fun. That was cool.
Yeah.
The Pokemon toys, those are sweet.
I do miss those.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're part of the Kids Club. That was, like, after that, because that was, like, Pokemon 2000.
That was definitely after.
Okay, that's fine. We can get off this bad name.
I mean, I really like reminiscing about, kids' meals.
How much time did we waste on this?
Not enough.
Nice.
That's
well,
only
if you're
like
still
3
here,
minutes.
We're going to talk about Magic, I guess.
I mean, we are. So you have just a couple of community topics, and then we're going to kind of jump into the competitive scene and talk a little bit more about Pioneer as well, because we have some more data around it. We actually have deck lists and like a relatively competitive tournament that happened on Magic Online. So, but we want to talk about a couple of community things here first. The first being that over the weekend we did have a brawl sort of event that you could participate in. It had a small fee, but then you could just keep playing. You could switch out your decks and do whatever you wanted all weekend, as far as Brawls was concerned. Now, what some people wanted to do was play Oko and just have people concede to them. And some people actually wanted to take things that they had built in paper and actually try them out on Magic Online. Not Magic Online, Magic Arena. So I know that I played a little bit, and I at least played enough to get the promos in the alternate art cards. And I know that Mike, you also played a little bit. So what did you think about both the experience, actual playing? I know Arena is kind of a bit of a garbage fire right now with performance. So, but everything just kind of work as far as
no,
that,
it was
that's
nice.
concerned?
Like setting up a brawl deck was nice, and the formatting for it, like it was easy to know who was your commander. It was cool that the commander costs just like scaled in the actual CMC.
Yeah.
I haven't played a lot of like commander or even brawl on Magic Online, but it was kind of nice to see just the CMC like actually shift and grow.
Yeah,
which
it
was
changed.
Cool. So I think interface wise, like brawl was really nice.
Yeah.
And everything was easy to understand, easy to see. When you clicked on the queue, like it told you that Sorcerer's Spyglass is banned.
Cool.
So
yeah,
like things
that's
like
good
that.
to know.
So that was good.
Yeah, I agree. I think everything with the actual like operation and of the actual event in the format, like it all worked. And I would have to say like I didn't play a whole lot, to be perfectly honest, but I only played against like one Oko deck the entire time, which is pretty nice. And like people were doing interesting things with the format. They do play a little bit differently than our house rules. Arcane Signet is definitely very legal.
Yeah, I've been putting in my decks for
You have
there,
to even like play against the other ones. Like you're just putting yourself at a pretty bad disadvantage if you're not playing by our far superior house rules of Arcane Signet being banned. But it was good. I do think that a lot of people have voiced concerns and complaints about Oko being able to be at the very least a commander within in the format.
We're complaining a lot about Oko today. I apologize.
It'll only be like it will only really say that it's potentially overpowered in a lot of instances.
Yes. This episode is going to offend the elk who are listening, and I apologize to that. So
that's true. I mean, like, to be fair, I don't think realistically the elk are Oko's friends either, because he's definitely turning like people into elk.
Yeah, but now they have more elk to mingle with. Like if you were that lonely elk who's like, I'm never going to find a friend. Well, now there's more elk.
I guess that's true. So if you're the naturally born elk, then you're fine with it. But I can't imagine like the terror hellscape of being turned into an elk. What that must be like realistically. Remember that cow in the flavor text of that one card?
Gosh, no.
It's got to be like that. Anyway, I think like that merits some sort of concern. Potentially, I could see it being like banned as a commander.
Yeah,
in the format. But I think like if it's just in your deck, then like that's still kind of annoying. But whatever, it's not consistent. You're not just always doing that. There is a video I think I saw the day on Reddit of some person who had Oko as their commander and played just like 57 lands, a Gilded Goose, and a Arboreal Grazer, and was still able to win games, like still able to do it. So if that is the most extreme case, then it's like, well, then you kind of have to take a look at it and be like, is this good? And it's kind of unfortunate because they only had this event for the weekend. The next time we get to play Brawl is, I guess, this upcoming Wednesday.
Yeah, so I was retweeting a bunch of people like trying to see if like we get any sort of like Gavin Berry answer or not. They're being pretty tight-lipped, but like a lot of people were like, "Oh, I really like this. I'm into this. Prominent names. This is good. I like playing Brawl. Why can't we have it all the time?" And they're like, "No."
Yeah, because
because you might stop playing Standard. Don't worry, we are.
Yeah, no joke.
The only thing I want to say about Brawl and that is that I know that people were using the one thing that's negative, especially about queues like that and like having like awards or rewards tied to it, is that there are a lot of non-games of Brawl, like games that people just conceded to a strong play, not a game-winning play by really any stretch, but a strong play. I played Kranko to start with, and pretty much any time I played Kranko with a haste like backup, like Sambit Sprint or something, my opponent just auto conceded. To board states, it's like I don't know that 4 Goblin tokens even matters here. Like it was weird and frustrating because like they don't think they can win that game, so they don't care to play it out. And like Brawl is like a fun format. Like I want to just have fun. I get it if I'm like grinding competitive ladder or whatever. Like I'm trying to waste as little time as possible. I get that, but that's not what you're doing there. So that was frustrating and just like weird stuff. I had playing a Dovin Brawl deck. I had a Golos opponent just concede to turn 1 Healer's Hawk.
Yeah,
and like now, granted, you don't have to convince me on the power of Healer's Hawk, especially in a Brawl. A couple of people have poo-pooed the Hawk, and I've taken it to them. I have. The Hawk has brought it home.
Sure.
But turn 1 Healer's Hawk, that's the play that we're just like, oh, can't win this match. It's like, your deck's bad then, if that's the actual case.
Yeah, and it's really a question of whether they are conceding because of you have an early play, or they're conceding because of like the nature and the structure of the actual like event that you're in, where maybe
and that seems to be what it is.
Maybe they're just entering and conceding so people can get wins, so they get the rewards.
I think it's more like they just wanted to get quick wins with their decks. So the Golos opponent, I have no idea. Like, you're not getting quick wins with that deck. I don't know.
But there are some people out there that will literally just queue up to concede to people so to get those wins.
That's fair. And I do want to point out that, like, because when I mentioned this in our Discord, Morgan was like, "Is this a brag?" And I was like, "No, not really. Like, I don't think I was doing anything that, like, it's Arena. It's not like I'm like, ha 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 ha. You should concede now."
No, I understand that you're coming at it with the mentality of like you.
I just want to play games.
You just want to want to play games.
It's just frustrating because like I played I will say I've had some really sweet games. I played a game with Krenko against a Nicol Bolas Dragon God deck that I had 3 cards of my library left when I won.
Yeah,
because it was like his multiple planeswalkers versus my experimental frenzy, and we had to do some crazy things. I cast Krenko and attacked with my Krenko after casting it when it cost 11. Right? Like, I took Krenko to 11.
Yeah.
But like, those are the games I'm looking for, and like, I think that's a game where, in the reverse, somebody would have just conceded. Like, oh, I'm behind it. Like, I don't know. I want to play fun games in that format. That's why I like it. So hopefully that'll calm down. But if every week is just like associated with some sort of grind fest where it's like, here's a small thing to go and get, that's going to be frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think like the idea that Arena can't support multiple different formats on it consistently is just I don't know why they're choosing to pursue this line other than it to be a worry about losing revenue of some persuasion.
And I want to speak a little bit to Arena and where it's at design wise, because I had a good conversation with a friend of mine who I hadn't seen in a little while on Friday, and I thought it was kind of illuminating for a couple of reasons. So without delving too far into it, this is a friend of mine from high school. He was in my wife and my wedding. He has MD. He does not have a ton of motion left currently. But he, through a lot of different devices, he can use computer pretty effectively. When we were in high school, we played Magic a lot. Like for a while, like, when he could shuffle still, or if like others were shuffling for him, whatever. But like that was a game that he was a friend who got through that, and that was a way we did that. And that became a little bit harder for him to do, and then didn't have the play group around him to do it. Magic Online is not as intuitive for those things, especially since you have to click each and everything. Arena has been a way for him back in. Like we were talking, like he can play Arena, and like because it's so much simpler, he can do the just a double click motion to play it. Doesn't have to tap his lands, those sorts of things. Like that's awesome. So like great. Well, then so it's like awesome. Like kudos to Arena making it obviously an accessible game, and that's a unique situation, and that's awesome. And like not something I had considered. I didn't know he was playing. Like I said, we hadn't really had talked too much recently, and like so it was just like nice to see him. And but then it was like, oh cool. Well, I'll add you to my friends list so we can play. Right. So and like that's, I don't mean to make that sound so dramatic, but it was frustrating because we can like direct challenge or whatever, and we were able to add each other through Discord and such, so we can still ways to do that. But like it was like, oh man, this is so cool, and then it's like and like Brawl seems like the format where friends list, that's what it's there for. That's what it should be there for.
Right.
But you get that consistent increasing like suspicion, like we saw with Historic and everything else, where it's like, oh, this isn't a priority because if I have you, Morgan, on my friends list and we are going to Brawl, that doesn't make them any money.
Sure.
And Brawl as a single format isn't going to make them a lot of money. I put together Corval, Dovin, and Krenko based off the list that I've already updated in paper, and I had to use a Command Tower wild card, an Arcane Signet wild card, and I think 2 or 3 other cards total.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like as I build Brawl decks, I'm not going to need wild cards. Now I will when a new set comes out.
For sure.
So there's still incentive there. But for a while, I don't really need to do anything. I don't need to draft. I don't need to do any of those things. So I see why they're trying to do that, but that's frustrating because it's just like, why do you taunt people with formats? I just don't understand why you taunt people with formats.
I don't know. Like, literally just remove the historic queue. Like, what are you doing here? Like, I understand like it's there so you don't like have legal action put against you in some persuasion. I don't know. Probably not even that.
It goes back to the same thing with the store and having like only being able to buy older sets and these things. It's like, how much digital space are we talking about? Like seriously, I was laughing because I was up visiting family and friends this weekend, so that's why I was there. I was at my parents' house and we were going to do some stuff on Saturday, and so in the morning I got on my parents' all-in-one HP. And downloaded Magic Online and played some matches, right? Mm-hmm. And my dad's like, "Oh, I'm surprised you can play it." I'm like, "No, it's because Magic Online is the same program it's been for 10 years now. Like, it's pretty basic."
Yeah.
I could not have run Arena on that machine.
No.
Right? Which I'm not saying is necessarily better, right? Like, Arena has a lot of those updates, but it's really funny to me where it's like, no, I can do this. But I want to say, like, I guess it's like, it feels like a Colbert, like, tip of the hat, wag of the finger.
Yeah.
But, like, it was something for Arena that I hadn't considered, the ease of access for other players who require unique methods to be able to play the game. Mm-hmm. So that was great. But then it's just like, man, give me the accessibility then to be friends with that person, to make it easier for us to play games of Magic against each other, and to play a format that is literally designed for those kind of fun, casual games.
Yeah.
All the time.
Well, listen, they're focusing on, making sure that Arena runs as smoothly as possible.
Nope.
They're optimizing it as best they can, so like you're never going to get friends list because it's never going to run optimally if Magic Online tells us anything. Like, anyway, I think it's cool. I hope that they do just allow like a casual queue. Like, you don't have to give me anything.
That's the thing.
You don't have to give me anything. I don't need to gain experience.
I can literally use Brawl to get my daily wins. Like, whatever.
Sure.
Who cares?
I would just like a casual queue that, if you have to make sure that like people aren't getting rewarded for playing it, like the reward is playing it, right? The reward is like building a deck and playing it.
Me wanting to be like use your program to play your Magic game.
Yeah. So I don't need anything else. So just let me do it, though. And if you don't give me any rewards, and I'll probably have to put money into the game to continue doing it, right? Like, eventually, it'll happen. But right now, like, you're not letting people do it, and then you're not getting any money off those people because they don't want to play anything else on that format, anything else on that program right now. So it's like, okay, like comparatively to what's available, like Brawl's probably your healthiest format. Hate to say it, and even then it's like But anyway, moving on to quote unquote healthy or not healthy formats, we have the announcement today that literally just like got tweeted out not too long before we started the podcast tonight, was that there was going to be no banner restricted updates before MC6.
I'm not gonna lie, I checked the mothership today just because I thought like
Maybe.
Get that Felidar Guardian going.
Yeah. But nope, they have said nothing before the Mythic Championship, and the next one's going to be November 18th.
I think that's... I think that's short-sighted. I really think that's short-sighted.
Yeah. I don't disagree.
MC6 is standard, correct?
Correct.
That is not going to be a fun product to watch.
Nope.
The last MC wasn't, and I don't think the Field of the Dead ban makes it better. And we have some evidence for that as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like maybe you're rolling the dice here because like maybe you could argue that if you get at least one more event to show how great Oko is, then you've got to go buy packs. But I think for the competitive player who you're trying, who essentially you're appealing to with these things, I don't know about that. I think it says more like, I'm going to ignore this until this goes away.
I still think like regardless of whether you are someone who's watching the event, like casually as just trying to enjoy people watching Magic, or you almost got a little trouble with that milkshake, didn't you?
Don't tell them what I'm doing.
Or if you're watching casually, or you're watching it in like with a spike sort of mentality, I don't think that's engaging Magic to watch.
No,
because you're probably just going to be watching a lot of blue-green X mirrors, and a lot of Okos and a lot of elk. I put a little meme in our show notes that says elks everywhere, or elk everywhere,
elk everywhere,
whatever. However you want to be pedantic about it, it's fine.
No, that's not it. It's not gooses everywhere.
Anyway,
deers is everywhere.
I love all the deers as
Mises.
well. I just don't think it's engaging content to make. And like the frustrating thing about this is like, you can have a really jaded like view of it and be like, because we could tell you like, hey, show WotC that this isn't something that like you're engaged by. Don't watch it. But they could just buy views, and it's like cool. Like like they would know internally, but like it won't show on paper. So like, how will you know like you're being effective in like your protest of like the format? It's just, I guess not buy it, of course, but it's tough. And like that, maybe that's not a good mindset to really have about it. I don't know. Like that's definitely with some of the other.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know.
That's very conjecture.
I mean, like you may not know, but you'll know that you didn't watch, and they will know that you didn't watch if they had to buy the viewers. So, I don't know. I think it's short-sighted for a number of reasons. This is one of those things where they've really got to admit their losses here. And when we go into competitive, like, I don't know where you stop with this card. I must be honest. I don't know where you stop with Oko.
We're just not going to talk. We're not going to talk a lot about standard, like period. Like the Open was modern, so that obviously makes sense for us to focus on that for like the Open. The GPs this weekend were all both limited, so it's like, I mean, we're limited. There's only Phoenix, so it's like, whatever. And yeah, it's just Oko shows up everywhere. I guess not technically limited. I'm sure people opened up and played them though.
Yeah, I'm sure it showed up in limited somewhere.
But I'm not. I haven't been excited for the last two like Mythic Championships, and like that's seems like a problem.
Yeah, I haven't watched a fair amount of the last one. It just was. I think the most refreshing thing was like how much the commentators who didn't necessarily work for WotC were pretty critical of Oko. Like Cedric was real critical of Oko, and I don't know. I don't know if you're gonna get that same experience at the paper MC, but.
I mean, like, and I really don't blame Cedric for being that way because I think, like, the man makes a lot of his livelihood off Magic. So I think I think he has the right to be a little bit defensive of them, like, trouncing a format.
No, and I think, like, if you're gonna go up there and do those things, like, and you have a chance to essentially communicate to WotC that there's a mistake, then try to do it. But I don't know if it will matter. Why don't we give a sweet shout out to our buddies at Comic Town?
Oh yeah, they're
we can jump into competitive for real.
For sure, they are going to be having a PTQ this Saturday, November 2nd. It's going to be a $35 entry fee. It is standard, and it's going to have a noon players meeting. Now I know we just said a lot of negative things about standard, but do go support your local game store.
Yeah, here's the thing: we love the people of Comic Town. Ryan is just a wonderful person, and I will be very honest, has had the worst event luck of anybody. Like, the man pours his heart and souls into the events he runs, and sometimes the cards literally just don't shake out for him.
They do not. Sometimes you can't always predict the format.
Here's what I will tell you. If you're thinking about going, and you are Okoing, and you think that other people don't like standard, well, maybe you'll walk into a room and spike a small event. But I'm going to tell you what my secret mode in telling you that is. I hope you all think it's small, and you all go make it real big.
And we hit that cap, that 128 player cap. So pre-registration is
I will say that is a definite number you can hit, and based off of obviously regionals of Star City, but even based on like some of the modern events they've held there, like that's a realistic cap if you get enough. So
and like we joke about the format, but like there's going to be people here like you're going to go up, you're going to be able to sign up and play Magic. So like,
and if you're excited about Pioneer, you're probably trying to win this. This is a player store qualifier. So like. You'll go play Pioneer, so that's your reward.
So yeah, and you can find out more information about that event at worldofcomictown.com or by visiting their page on Facebook. So, but yeah, so competitive. So again, we had GP Phoenix that was limited. Congrats to Max Mick for taking out the tournament. I know he's had a couple of like undefeated day one runs is one of the storylines that they were sharing. So he finally took down a tournament. So hats off to him.
I think also shout out to Paul Rietzel, who may have requalified for the PT. I believe he fell off.
Oh yeah,
entirely. So
wow.
Yeah, I believe he requalifies here.
So. I know that Kenji had a pretty deep run. He had a string of bad luck there at the tail end to miss out on top 8, but good run there.
I also think Frank Karsten went like 12-3, or he's like he took 15th place or something like that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, like randomly in Phoenix and like, hey, look, they're playing. What's the game called? Magic?
I think I like that.
It just turns on his giant math brain. It's just like, I'll figure this out.
I got this. How many Secret Keepers do I draft?
Oh my gosh.
Now, paper draft is obviously different than an arena draft, but
Well, not if you view the world as NPCs.
I suppose that's true. That's a weird world view.
It's not good. It's not good.
One. So we are going to shift gears and talk a little bit about Modern here. So we had Star City Games Atlanta. It was, of course, like I said, Modern. They had the Open, and it was won by John Holland playing Grixis Death Shadow, which is a deck that has sort of a on-again, off-again relationship of being, like, people think it's good or not. I don't know.
On-again, off-again relationship with me.
I think, like, if there's a deck that exists that is probably just always good, but people don't, like, always know if it's good or not, it's probably Grixis Death Shadow. Or people are like, nah, the deck's trash, and then it, like, just wins a tournament. But I think the real story coming out of the top 8 is definitely the success of the, Simic Wurza decks. The combination of Oko and Urza have been very powerful, it seems. And it was discovered by, or at least put into place by, what is this team?
Lotus.
Yeah, it's a team Lotus Box.
Yeah. Yeah, four members with the same deck.
Yeah, 4 members with the same deck. We also have Edgar Makayesh top hitting with Urza midrange, but has Urzas and Okos in it still.
Did you see the tweet from Oliver Tomashko?
I know he was playing Crabvine.
He was, and he finished like a 37th.
Yeah.
I just want to read this to you. This was, I believe, okay. So this is the week before. Thank you to whomever convinced the masses that Gilded Goose is playable in Modern. This type of trickery is the key to my success at Modern SCGs. No matter how bad my deck is, I can always count on my opponents to bring worse ones. That tweet did not age well.
Oh, it aged probably the worst.
Because all these Simic Urza decks, that's a lot of Gilded Goose.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's a 1-mana play that generates an artifact, like, and gains you incremental advantage and allows you to play your turn. It just, like, it does everything like these Wurza decks want to do, right? And, like, Oko is good in these decks, like, because of the synergies that he allows to exist within the deck. He just generates 1-mana artifacts, and with your Urza out, it's just generating mana, like
mana for that and for war.
Yeah, it's just like there's synergies. Like this is why, like, I don't in sort of going back, like, yes, there's a lot of Oko here, but Oko, I think, like, is just a powerful, like, planeswalker. Liliana's a powerful planeswalker. Jason's the Mind Sculptor is a powerful planeswalker, right? Like, the reason that this looks so tilted and skewed is because of these Wurza decks are taking advantage of it, in my opinion.
I agree, and, like, Urza is obviously a problem, is showing itself to be a problematic card, but these decks could play Jace the Mind Sculptor.
But
and they're not in any way.
But Jace the Mind Sculptor is not synergistic with their deck.
Yeah, this deck would hate to draw cards.
But it's saying, like, Oko comes down to turn earlier and generates an artifact.
I think I'm going to make a bold claim here, but as of right now, regardless of, like, just the synergy here, you could choose one or the other with your mana accelerants. Oko is the better planeswalker.
Just, like, in a vacuum, just in general, you're probably
yes.
Like, you're probably
yes.
right.
I'm going to say that, yes.
But I'm just saying, like, I don't know if we see such a concentration of them being successful with such numbers as well. Like, the lot of these lists are playing 4-ofs.
I don't know, like...
Without, like, Urza being in the format, without, like Mox Opal being in the format,
this one in the top 8 doesn't necessarily have it. Most of the builds of even Amuletite, which is in the top 8, have had this card in it. I don't know. I think when you look at the way this card is interacting with every format, and I mean every format, Oko is currently the more powerful planeswalker than Jace. And we could say, in a vacuum, that's a tougher question. I think I say yes, because the mana, turn 2 Oko is versus even, if you could accelerate to turn 3 Jace the Mind Sculptor, Oko wins. Oko wins that matchup. And I don't know what else to say there for it. It is kind of scary how powerful Oko is proving to be.
I don't think, I think it's powerful. It's powerful in definitely lists that are capable of casting it, right?
Yeah, but that's the thing about...
I don't know if it warps people into wanting to do that only.
I disagree, and I think the key this weekend is the stats we got. I know we saw, it was a tweet from Willie Idol, I believe, right? But we'll talk about the MCQ a little bit, right? But close to 75% of decks that day 2'd so this is the Arena MCQ.
Yeah.
Were playing Oko. Close to 75%. And it was 90 something, or no, it was like 60 something. I counted it out when you originally posted it.
Yeah, 60 or 70 something plus. It was below 80%.
The challenges all in Moto this weekend, the Vintage Challenge, the Pioneer Challenge, and Legacy Challenges, all were won by decks with Oko in them. Vintage and Legacy. Right? Again, both of these decks could be playing Jace the Mind Sculptor, may still be playing Jace the Mind Sculptor, because I didn't see the Vintage list. But they're playing Oko. They're playing Oko because Oko comes down on turn 2. Oko is even better with Moxen. Like, you can play turn 1 Oko with Moxen, and then you can start making your Moxen Elk. It is... And so about 7 of 8 of the top 8 decks in the Open have Oko in them in some capacity. So, I think honestly, was it... yeah, even Devoted Devastation has Oko in it. So... it's only one copy, but the only deck that on here, there might be 2. I think he actually has that count wrong. Because Grixis Death Shadow doesn't, and Titan doesn't, unless I missed it. Yeah, Titan doesn't. So it was 6 of 8, not 7 of 8. But I don't know, man. It's in every format.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's winning events in every format.
So, like, yeah, obviously, like, you look at Legacy. Well, the deck I was playing was Temur Delver. Like, that deck's good anyway, right?
Yes.
So it's just slotting in there. It's just slotting into a deck. It's just a powerful deck.
Yeah, no, I don't understand what your point is.
But it's not warp. So it's not like warping the form. Like Temur Delver. Temur Delver was a good deck beforehand.
Okay. Well, first off, our original conversation was whether or not it was. I'm sorry for yelling into the microphone. Oh my gosh. Our original argument was comparing it to Jace the Mind Sculptor, right? Again, those decks could play Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Right.
We said that about Modern. It will just slot in. It's so powerful.
Yeah,
and
but
it hasn't.
So I assuming that this whole conversation is leading to like a potential banning in like Modern.
I think it's leading to a banning possibly everywhere someday. But
then then you just have to ban like. Then you have to look at every powerful planeswalker that exists. Do you think Liliana the Veil should be banned in Modern?
It literally, Liliana, the only way it reached this ubiquity is when Jund was doing that well, and other cards in that deck got banned.
Right.
But Liliana has never, even when it was seen played in multiple decks, which it isn't now, has never seen this ubiquity. Jace the Mind Sculptor, outside of Standard, has never seen this ubiquity, and certainly wasn't adopted this quickly.
But I mean, like, Liliana the Veil's played in every format that it's legal in.
But ubiquity, it never reached it. No matter, look at its arc. Any of the 3-mana planeswalkers that are seeing this much play, Teferi is the closest to seeing multi-format ubiquity. We are what, less than what? We're only a month out of release, and Oko has been adopted in high numbers in every format of Magic. What other planeswalkers ever actually done that in the amount of numbers that we're seeing? You show me when Liliana the Veil came out, and show me the vintage list it was winning with.
I mean, I don't have that data, obviously.
No, but I'm saying I'm saying like it wasn't a thing.
But I don't know if you know if it wasn't a thing.
Okay, well, I'm going to assert that it wasn't a thing.
Okay,
sorry.
I like you're asking me to provide this data, but
we're seeing something we haven't seen. You would remember seeing a card do this.
I'm sure there's plenty of cards that go into that have gone into those older formats and have seen success on a very recent basis.
Wow,
I just don't believe
the card. I don't understand.
I'm defending it in internal formats. Whoa. I'm defending it in formats that have a larger card pool and that can adjust and adapt.
I'm not necessarily. I'm being bombastic when I'm saying like banned in every format, but I think like this card is different. The way it interacts is different. It is different from every other Magic card ever.
I think it's definitely powerful. I think there's also decks that can still see success with it. I think that there's other problems in. I don't think it's a problem in Legacy. Like it's just
not yet, but
and I don't think it's a problem showing up in Vintage. Like I don't know what the problem is there either. I think
3-mana Planeswalkers, the new 3-mana Planeswalkers, specifically now this and Narset, are damaging Vintage in a number of ways. But I don't know what I think
Narset's more damaging than Oko is.
It certainly could be, but I don't know.
I mean, I'm no expert on there, but as far as like format, like being able to like have a healthy format, I think what Vintage is trying to do is more damaged by Narset than it is by what Oko is trying to do.
I guess I don't know. Oko, and like I mean, from a Vintage perspective, Oko, like I said, gives you hasty threats against your opponent. It turns on your Oath of Druids by getting rid of your opponent's mana rocks. Like it's pretty absurd.
So, like, what I'm trying to say is, like, yes, the card is absurd and is definitely being adopted in decks that can already play it, but it's not causing just wholeheartedly, like, that's the only thing you can do in the format, right?
We don't know that yet for sure. I think in Modern it's beginning to do that already.
But, I mean, like, Urza was already good. Like, we already knew that card was a problem. We already knew it was bad. Now it's just only exemplified that. So we already knew something needed to be done beforehand. This is only furthering that point along. I don't think it's Oko that needs to be banned. I think it's Mox Opal that needs to be banned, right?
Oh well, possibly. It might just.
I think it's Urza needs to be banned.
I get like we're just talking about like demanding bannings of this thing. I'm just saying like I think for you to look at what Oko is doing across multiple formats and not say that it's a warping card, I can't believe.
I think it's a powerful card. I think it's warping in Standard.
It's warping in every format it's seeing play. It's warping. I don't know what to tell you.
I think like
cards don't see this kind of play and this kind of result that quickly in older formats, and this sort of adoption at that speed.
Okay. Then, like, what about Karn? What about Karn, the Great Creator?
But yeah, it created an archetype, but not every deck is doing that. Like, Modern is trying to find ways to put Oko in every deck.
I don't know if that's true.
Okay.
But
the format literally shifts to multiple people winning with this, but I guess that's crazy.
Where's the 4-color, like, Jund list that's trying to play Oko? Where's, like, where
not good enough because Jund is still bad.
But I'm just saying, like, Amulet Time was already blue-green. Like, why wouldn't they try to play one of the most powerful...
Well, they already were. That's just a different build. Most builds have been playing some number of Oko, either the side or not. Like, literally, Ross Merriam, the next highest Amulet Titan list is playing Oko.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they're already blue-green. Why wouldn't they try to play that card? It's not a new archetype.
There's a ton of blue-green cards that they could play, but they're playing Oko.
Because Oko's powerful.
That's because it's... Like,
but you're just saying like
walking this tightrope that is literally only 3 inches off the ground.
You're saying that anytime there's a new powerful card that gets printed and adopted into a deck that can already play it.
No, ubiquity, man. The Urza deck was already a powerful deck, and it's literally shifted 2 iterations now. It went from Oko in the sideboard in 1 week to it literally Oko being the dominating force in that archetype.
Because it works in that archetype. It does so many things in that archetype to make it good.
Okay.
It's just massively synergistic in what they're trying to do. Like,
okay. That's fine.
But that deck is already a problem. Like, we already know it's a problem. Like, say, putting out the already absurdly powerful deck got an absurdly powerful card. Yeah, and saying, like, the new card they got is like, warping when, like, Mox Opal is actually the warping card, right?
Okay.
Like, that's the card that's actually warping the format.
I can't disagree with you anymore. I'm just so sorry. There's so many Okos in the top 16. There's Oko in 4-color Death Shadow. Like, I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't. Let's see if Infect's playing Oko. Infect's also playing Oko. I don't know what to tell you, man. It is warping the format. Other strategies are literally working to put that card into it because they can.
Well, when
Death Shadow certainly doesn't need to be playing it, but
Burn Oko and we have Eldrazi Oko, Tron Oko.
No, that's where the other thing here. Where'd Burn go? Where'd it go? There's not a single copy of Burn in the top 32. There's not a single copy. Burn is in 46th place. Where'd the Burn go?
I mean,
it went because Oko is going to kick it out of the format because it's format warping. The format already bows down to it. It was as of last weekend. Sorry, man. Burn is dead.
I mean, you would have to make an argument that like Burn was going to like maintain, like continue to maintain like
it has. It's one of the only decks that's been consistent throughout all of these format shifts. Oko's the card it can't beat.
I mean, Bird also can't beat a lot of cards. Like,
okay,
I'm just saying.
But
like,
Oko was okay. You can literally keep changing the goalposts on this entire argument. It's the weirdest thing. Yeah, there's a lot of cards that can't beat, but Oko is the card that all of these decks are trying to play, forcing themselves to play. Like,
what deck is forcing themselves to play it?
Devoted Devastation.
The Devoted Devastation has access to that mana.
Of course it can. No. Of course it has access to that mana. Multiple decks have access to the mana to play multiple cards.
Right.
Tell me what Oko does for its base strategy.
I mean,
literally nothing, and you know that. So it goes into the deck because it's an obscenely powerful card. That's it. It's an obscenely powerful card. Powerful enough that you can cut a spot in a dedicated combo list just to add it. That's it. Why would Death Shadow play this? Force itself to go into this way. We have the consistent version of the Traverse version has been literally John. You have Jonathan Rossum here, and I got a couple of other, switching their Traverse list to include Oko now. Like, I don't know what else to say there. Like, I'm not saying it immediately has to be banned in Modern, but to look at what has happened in the last 2 weeks with Oko in Modern across regionals and now, and suggest that Oko isn't warping the format, I think that just doesn't make any sense. Of course it's warping the format. It's obscenely powerful. It's doing all the things that we thought maybe Jace the Mind Sculptor could do, and it just can't. It just can't. Hey, this is a Zudek in 69th place.
Nice.
Hey. So, I guess I don't understand when you look at the results of this format. Obviously, you agree for Standard.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely.
And I'm not saying Oko is necessarily broken in Vintage or Legacy. What I'm telling you though is that most Standard cards don't get adopted this quickly, and not just this quickly. Shift their lists for it. They just don't do it. The only other card out of Throne of Eldraine that's seeing anywhere close to that play is Once Upon a Time. And Once Upon a Time is a disgusting Magic card. We knew that going in. That one's easier to assess as being disgusting. I think it's scarier when it's a Planeswalker like this, because they keep pushing these 3-mana Planeswalkers. And this might just be the one that is the tipping point. Liliana of the Veil also had a much more restrictive mana cost than Oko does. It's important to keep that in mind. Oko begs to be played with 1-mana creatures. Right? Birds of Paradise, Noble Hierarch, Gilded Goose, Llanowar Elves. It doesn't matter. It begs to be played with those cards and comes out earlier because of it. When Jund was incredibly good, it's also because one of its best plays was what? Turn to Liliana of the Veil, because Deathred Shaman was there. You know what I mean? Because Deathred Shaman was the only real mana dork you'd want to play in Jund. So I think you have to look at it from all angles with that. Green wants to play these 3-mana Planeswalkers, and you're pairing it with blue compared to Liliana, which is double black. Blue's generally the better thing here, and green is the most powerful color in Magic, so... So, I don't know, and I think the other thing we're not talking about here is also Pioneer. Oko also in the Pioneer Challenge, and Oko is dominating a lot of Pioneer lists too.
I mean, it's definitely... at the very least, there seems to be, if you want to play green-black, that, you're probably playing Sultai to some degree, but also, you're also playing Sultai because of Dig Through Time, right? That's also an absurd card.
It is also an absurd card. So, it's not as good as Oko.
We'll talk about Pioneer a little bit later.
No, but I'm just saying that, I think you have to look at it across that. Cards don't do that.
So, what do you think, if you're going into a tournament and playing Modern, and you don't want to play Oko, how do you go about combating this, right?
I mean, if you're looking at the Open, you probably have, I don't know, I would say you look at the winning list because it had to beat these decks, but man, I don't really want to play Death Shadow against a bunch of Okos, so I'm not really sure. Amulet Titan might still be fine, but I really don't know. You have to. It's not just Oko. You have to beat Oko and Wurza, and I'm not sure what the best way to do both of those things is. I have no idea. I don't know right now. I don't think that the same hate you had 2 weeks ago for Urza decks, whether they were Paradoxical Outcome or Ascendancy, not the same hate you would need this week, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know what cards beat all of the artifact interactions and Urza and Oko. And obviously, I think that's why the deck did so well. I don't know what beats all of those things.
Right.
Death Shadow obviously has a chance because of its ability to rip a hand apart.
Yeah.
But in a traditional game, I don't think that's actually the best game plan to beat it. So I don't know. I really don't know. I don't have a good answer. Mm-hmm. I would suggest Counter Magic, but I think Counter Magic's average against a lot of the format otherwise. Things like Force of Negation sound great to me against those decks, but then you have to play against like Amulet Titan where you can't force their Primeval Titan, you might just die.
Sure can.
So I really don't know. Modern's in a tough place. We talked about it being there before, and I think Oko's putting it in a worse place.
I think the issue is still less Oko and more the Where's the decks. I think like if you take that out of the format and Oko is just a part of it, then you can metagame against a part of it. I think being able to combat everything that deck can do is very hard. I think you're right with that. I think that being where we center a lot of what's happening with its success over this weekend and seeing Oko in so many numbers in those lists and having the discussion honestly being like, I don't know how you fight all of that, then I think that becomes a greater issue. I think if we don't have that, then it takes out that need, and that maybe you can find ways to metagame against Oko.
What did you think the best deck in Modern was a week ago or 2 weeks ago?
Urza.
Okay. And how many... so 2 weeks ago, how many Urza decks were playing green?
I mean,
the Paradoxical Outcome lists were the most popular, and they were mono blue. You had some Ascendancy lists.
I mean, technically, like
2 weeks ago is when you first started to see Oko in the sideboards, right? Because like this is not, again, we haven't had Oko even legal that long, right? But before Oko, you had Paradoxical Outcome versions of Urza, or you had like 4-color with the Graveyard Shenanigans, but they weren't green.
They were. I mean, like it's hard to say. Like these decks are 5-color decks.
Before, okay,
realistically,
but like before Throne, how many of them were actually green decks? Playing real green cards outside of Veil of Summer.
Like in the main deck?
Yeah.
None of the paradoxical ones. They're mono blue.
Okay, and within these last 2 weeks, they have literally become green 1-drop decks. Like literally, they're playing Gilded Goose so they can play Oko.
The Civic ones, yes.
The dominating list. Let's be honest. Dominating list. They took 4 out of the top 8 slots in this tournament. Dominated this tournament. I don't think you could look at it any other way. And I think when you look at that, yes, I can agree that Urza in some capacity was the best deck, and the best deck shifted its entire mana base and color to become an Oko deck.
I mean, you say shifted as if they had some sort of difficulty in upheaving like what their mana bases
looked at. It changes what they're doing entirely. It changes the structure of the deck. It changes the way it functions and plays.
I don't know how much though. Like how like
they're playing
to what detriment?
To what? Wait. What do you mean? To what detriment?
To what detriment?
Like adding a color. Like so.
You
have perfect mana in Paradoxical Outcome. Perfect mana.
Yeah, but no. With these decks, with the Arkham's Astrolabes, with the Moxes, like how much are they really debilitating themselves? Like you say, like as if it's some like sort of monumental thing that they're doing, but it's just like I don't know. I don't know if it's that big of a deal.
You think a deck going from a monocolor to a 2-color deck with a green 1-drop is not a monumental shift?
It depends on what the deck's trying to do. It depends on how
the deck is trying to play a turn 2 green Planeswalker.
But then I don't think it's that monumental a shift. I think they could do it pretty consistently because of how these decks are built. They have access to 5 colors of mana on a very consistent basis due to the Moxen that they play and due to Astrolabe. Okay. Like, you cannot negate that fact. And, like, if you're saying, like, oh, well, they have to, like, play a few, like, maybe they're taking more pain from their mana sources, but they are making it back up with Oko. Like, I think, like, fundamentally, like, maybe we're getting, like, even the name sort of, like a little bit off because I think these are different decks than the Urza decks that we've seen beforehand.
Yeah, I agree.
They are obviously shifting to be able to do many of the same things that the Urza decks are, but they are different, and they are different because of Oko, and they are different because Oko is very synergistic with their deck and very powerful, and I will agree with you on that. But these decks have we know these decks, this archetype, that this sort of structure of a deck is easily changed to other forms because we've seen it. We've seen it change from one broken artifact deck to another broken artifact deck. Okay. So they're always going to be shifting to the most broken thing they can do around artifacts.
And now the most broken thing they can do is Oko. Isn't that what you're saying then?
I'm saying it's the most powerful thing they do for sure, but. I'm saying
fine.
They have the capability. They have the capability to do that because of the artifacts they play, because of the Mox.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But so you're suggesting if we just ban like Mox Opal and like Urza, then Oko stops being a dominating force in this format?
I think we have to see what it looks like then now, don't we? I think that's
what Watsy said after Fielded that I got banned too. So
I think that's short-sighted.
Yes, I agree. We're being short-sighted.
There's a lot more cards in Modern that are capable of combating what's going on with if you're just playing a Oko in your deck, right?
Yep. There's a lot more cards in Pioneer than Standard, and Oko won the premier event on the weekend. There's a lot more cards in Modern than Pioneer and Standard, but Oko still took slots in 6 of the top 8 decks. Yeah, because it's also the
best. It was also the best deck in the format beforehand. You're just saying it wasn't like Oko came.
It's also in 2 other it's also in other builds in the top 8. It's a devoted devastation. That's fine. Then we'll move to Legacy. There's a much bigger card pool in Legacy. There's no way that an Oko deck will win the premier event for the weekend. It did. That's okay. We'll go to Vintage. Every Magic card possible.
It's Delver, which is also still a good deck in the format.
Yeah, but. They have one thing in common.
You're right. Let's just. I just You're right. I don't know. I just don't necessarily agree that
I just don't know how you can't suggest it's format warping. I don't know what your definition of that is. Then
I think it's powerful. Okay. I just think
Brainstorm is powerful too, but it certainly hasn't warped Legacy. Notice I'm not suggesting that Brainstorm has to be banned out of Legacy, but just calling it what it is, I guess.
I don't know. I just I think people's connotation of warping is always ban it. That's the thing, and I just don't know if I agree with it. I don't know if I agree wholeheartedly that it should be banned in Modern or banned in Legacy or restricted in Vintage.
When you take a mainstay and something that could and can still fight against Urza, which was Burn, and you literally make it disappear across 2 weeks as Oko gains more and more share of the format. When you literally have a single card and its adoption into multiple strategies, turning off other strategies, therefore more will have to adopt to instead of beating that card, they're just playing that card. I don't know where the actual line is where you decide warped or warping, but if it's a math problem, we're certainly approaching. We're approaching. And at least at Modern. Obviously the wins in the other premier events on Magic Online, there's a lot of decks. I know we got the Pioneer deck up we're going to talk about. There's a lot of Oko in them. There just is. But Legacy and Vintage, I'm certainly not. Neither of us are certainly well versed enough to know if that's pervasive in the whole format. But I think when you take a standard card, a card that's supposed to be adjusted for standard power level, and you just throw it into, even if it's a good Legacy deck, even if it's Rug Delver, right? And it's just it just wins an event, and then you're just oh no, that's not weird. I think that's weird.
I mean, every deck, most every card's gone through Standard.
Oh yes, I understand.
Yeah,
they've gone through Play Design Modern Standard.
What are you talking about?
I'm saying when you're talking about most every card, yes, but it's still not common for standard cards to be adopted that quickly. It just isn't.
Maybe it hasn't been.
And at that and again, not just how quickly, but with that ubiquity. I think that's where I'm going the most with this is that you can point to every single constructed format in Magic and say Oko is presenting itself to be obscenely powerful, and not just again every single format, even Brawl. I don't know.
I don't know. I just I'm more willing to see what it looks like.
Again, I'm not necessarily arguing for its banning in Modern. I liked playing it in Modern. I just think that to look at it and suggest it's not warping is, I think it's just incorrect.
Maybe we just maybe I'm just taking warping into a too negative of a connotation, and maybe it doesn't have to be a negative connotation for warping, right?
No, it doesn't. If a bunch of decks are able to fight back, right, and fix it, then it could still it still could be a successful format that is warped around that card. You know what I mean?
Because so let's take a look at Modern as a whole. It has a lot of cards that
Are
warp the
warping,
format.
absolutely.
Okay, so I will agree that it is warping, but definitely not. I don't think it's. I think it's yet to be determined if it's in a negative context. I think that there.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that for Modern.
I think there's other cards that need to be looked at that are not contributing to Modern's health, and maybe Oko is counted amongst them. But I really think that being up in arms about Oko definitely distracts from the fact that Mox Opal is still the problem card, in my opinion, in Modern. And that's the card that I like, or in Urza, to a greater extent. I don't know. I don't know what the format looks like without Mox Opal and with Urza versus what it looks like with with it not existing. But clearly, we've been under the best deck is an artifact deck for a long time.
Yeah.
There was a brief stint when maybe you just played Hogax.
Just ban artifacts. Besides Batter Skull and the Swords. I need those.
Yeah, correct. But I'm just I just want to see what it looks like without that, because I think...
Sure. And I think if you look at the Classic, if we move to the Classic a little bit, there's a lot of decks in that top 8 that are fairly interesting. Is it Delver wins the event? Russell Lee. I think that's pretty sweet. That's a deck that I'm talking about that can make an early play and then has 4 Force Negations. In addition to 4 copies of Archmage's Charm. So I think this is a deck that's just it's all about protecting these this one threat and then counter magic, which it beat Sultai War, which was in 2nd place, but also in 3rd. But you also have Jund Goblins, Brian Eisenhower. This is similar to the list we saw that was at Jim Davis play. Was that the Pro Tour? Last Modern Pro Tour?
Maybe.
So that's pretty good. I like the 1 copy of Grumgoli the Generous. That's pretty sweet.
Oh, yeah.
All my creatures are non-humans, because they are goblins.
How about that?
You have Tron show up. There's Burn in 10th. The Crabvine decks are trying to make themselves known, which is just... Vengevine just is please stop forgetting about me. I know they keep banning stuff, but I'm here.
I mean, that's kind of the other thing that has happened is that people are using the limited All-Star of I forgot it, Merfolk Secret Keeper to kind of power out some of these lists, power out some of these Crabvine lists, and really kind of embrace their blue side. And I think that was sort of the other hot deck over the weekend. Because you weren't expecting people to have a lot of graveyard hate. Those days are done. And Dredge isn't what it used to be. So why not take advantage of the format and try this all-in strategy? And there were some people that definitely had success with it, not as highly as I'm sure they would liked, but definitely some sort of success with it. So, but yeah, I mean, looking at the Classic, obviously it's maybe not as stacked of a tournament, but there definitely is some options and some weird ones that are kind of out there and still being able to be successful.
Yeah.
Obviously, really, the next big Modern tournament is going to be it's going to say a lot. I think we have the Invitational coming up, and I think that is going to speak volumes for, I think, that's going to change a lot of...
That is after the next
correct
BNR announcement, right? Because it's the 7th or something like that of December?
I'm not sure.
Are they still having the one on the 18th? Is that not happening, I guess?
They are. November 18th is the next BNR.
The Invitational's in first week in December.
The Invitational is November 14th through the 17th, sir.
What? I thought it was the first. Wow.
SCG Con
oh
is
my
November
God.
14th through the 17th.
Yep. I have no nothing. Never mind.
Yeah. So I was
wait, are they just done with events after November then for SCG?
Yep.
Until Columbus in January.
Yep.
Oh, the Players' Championship.
Yeah, the Players' Championship, but that's in Roanoke and not a tournament necessarily open to the public.
Right. Wow. Man, what are we going to talk about?
I don't know. Stuff, I guess.
Send us your topics. We're going to need them.
But I think that is where I will probably take more information from. I want to see what the reaction to this tournament is, because Oko has definitely shown itself to be in a lot of decks, but it's still relatively new, and people. I don't know how well people were kind of preparing for it in that mindset, and maybe the argument is they can't. Maybe it's just
I don't even know if they can't. I don't know if they can't or not. I think the problem is that the good answers to it, and like here's the thing, like. So first off, I will say I think Oko's Coronation was Regionals weekend. Like it felt like that card that's when it got its buzz. So like suggesting that people weren't prepared for it this weekend, I'm suggesting the exact opposite. They tested it and said this card's obscene, I'm playing it. A lot of decks adopted it. Secondly, though, I think that a lot of the decks that are possibly good against Oko, one, you can only play so many copies of the cards that are good against Oko. What's good against Oko?
Abrupt Decay.
Okay, great. What else? Also Assassin's Trophy, right?
Yeah, to a lesser extent.
What else? Like it's distinctly good against Oko.
I
Magmatic Sinkhole.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe some counter magic.
Maybe Magmatic Sinkhole.
Well, maybe it's only 5, right?
Correct. Yeah.
I'm trying to think like what other common like removal planeswalker cards are there in the format besides those 2 cards.
I think like you probably have to start looking outside the
Okay.
format, which is probably like
absolutely right. Pithing Needle, right?
Yeah.
And like Sorcerer's Spyglass both fit the bill. The only problem is that a lot of times Okos come like if they're not in the most fair decks, they come with the fairies, right? Or ways to get rid of that. And again, like boarding Pithing Needle in against like Urza decks feels super gross. Because I hate to tell you, it doesn't really work on Urza. I guess you could stop its whatever the activated ability is, but
Planar Portal?
I don't know if it's going to matter. No, it's not Planar Portal. It's something else.
Something else.
It's from Urza's Saga. I don't remember what it's called. But so I think like when you look at those cards that Abrupt Decay and Assassin's Trophy, right? The decks that could play them, you're seeing here, the various Death Shadows builds, right? Jund in general isn't good against these big combo decks. Right. So like even if you want to play the cards that are individually good against Oko, the decks that support them aren't good enough in the format, right? Maybe then what you're suggesting about the banning of just the Urza cards fixes that a little bit, but when the card has answers, but the card is just that much more powerful than the answers, that's why I'm saying it's warping, right? Because it could warp in the way that the card stops seeing play, or instead it looks like it's warping the way where people are just playing the card, right? When you're playing the card instead of the answers, you know it's warping. And that's where I think, people saw Oko coming, knew it was coming, and here it still is. And I think that's important. So maybe if the Jund decks get better, then sure, that's fine. Then you'll see more Abrupt Decays and stuff. But if you don't have it right off the bat, and like here's the thing, even with outside of counter magic, like the first Oko still gets you value. You know what I mean? You still made an Elker, you still made a food token, and then they get to make their play against it. And I don't know if you know this, but elk move in packs. They're a herd species, and those Okos tend to come. So if you're trading your removal spell for 1.5 cards, because that's how these planeswalkers work, right? You can only do that so many times. If you can't get yourself ahead, you just lose. So
I don't know. I mean, like there's the importance of discard as well.
No, that's true. And again, I think that's why when you look at some of these, the most successful lists that are like anything that's Black X are these Death Shadow decks, because they can either play discard and then these other effects. But even like a card like you say as powerful as Liliana of the Veil, I'm telling you, Liliana of the Veil versus Oko wins.
Yeah, I'm not saying like put them both up against each other, like one side versus one side. Like yeah, of course. Like, but
I'm saying that like it's hard then to continue just like yes, Death Shadow wins the open. But I don't know if how many times in that matchup that Death Shadow consistently does that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It has the tools to win any game. That's the best thing about Death Shadow. It has the tools to win any game of Magic.
100%.
And it's a pilot dependent deck. It really is. So a quality player wins the open with that. But man, I just don't know. At some point you end up hating to be the person who gets moto bugged out of Oko, right? Like I took it with I thought seized it, and it's like I had to do the second one.
Yeah, it's not, it's not something that is obviously cut and dry, right?
Yeah.
I do think that, obviously Jund not being good against the worst of decks definitely hurts it. And definitely hurts, like, people's ability to fight against Oko. I think maybe you take that factor out of the metagame, maybe you could build a better sideboard, maybe these things become more viable, and then Jund gains metagame and keeps that in check. Like you have to hope that's what happens, right? If you are investing in Okos. But I mean, like I think like maybe the opposite obviously is that the it's not worth it to take that harder path and just to play a blue-green in whatever deck you can manage to fit it into, and then like that's just what the format looks like. I don't know if that's how Modern will shake out. I don't believe it. I think like we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, like I think for the Invitational, we're just going to see a lot of Oko decks. I think until something happens, we're going to see a lot of Oko decks. I don't think Oko should be banned in Modern. I think there's other things that should be banned in Modern. I think it is a new, very powerful card coming in and making itself known.
And again, I'm not sitting here calling for the banning.
No, I understand that. I'm not saying that you are.
If it did, I wouldn't be surprised because of the power level.
But I think that again, I would prioritize other things in Modern before. But yeah, before gunning for Oko, just to see if we can maneuver the metagame back into where this card can still exist and be worthwhile to some people, but also still have something that is healthy. Now for Standard, it should probably just go. Like that's unfortunate. I don't know. Like you could try to ban Nissa. Maybe that's the other thing you try to do. But like, what are we even doing here at that point in time? Like Nissa is obviously like a problem in that sort of synergy that kind of grows in those decks that Oko is in. Like we have Standard things to talk about, but again, like we're not going to talk about them. Oko is just oppressive.
I think like. And you mentioned it, and I think in our show chat, but something I really enjoyed. I retweeted it on the At Your End Step account, so you can read it. The article that BBD wrote for TCG Player this last week, I think hits the nail on the head for Standards at. The things we have for Standard here just show you the obscene numbers that the food decks, both Simic, Sultai, Bant,
whatever flavor. Yeah.
I get it because it's food.
Yeah, it's good.
But some of the numbers of like cards versus, so like I think it was like the number of breeding pools in the MCQ qualifier like outnumbered the combined total of mountains, swamps, and plains in the entire event.
It's absurd.
And like when you're looking at that, like BBD like sort of lays out like how like not only there's some things like small card pool, this and that, but like the color pie is inherently broken, and I think like we talked about that a little bit on here, and I've sort of been derisive before of like Mark Rosewater's been super vocal about cards like Bee Sting and Kenrith's Transformation, as these are color pie breaks. But Once Upon a Time isn't a color pie break. And like when you think about that, like, well, green gets lands and creatures, right? But then you also put Once Upon a Time in a format where the creatures are spells. So it also gets spells. And also you make it free some amount of time. Why does green also get free spells? I do not understand. Green currently has the best counter spell in like that's playable and constructed in Veil of Summer, and it only costs a single mana.
And like counters more things than it should.
Way more things than it should at a rate that is unbelievable.
It counters uncounterable things.
It counters uncounterable things. It counters obtuse things.
Yes.
Like where like you having randomly hexproof, like you shouldn't. Why do you? Why do you have hexproof all of a sudden? Veil of Summer is just unreal. It gets cards like Questing Beast that like do so many things that should. Green gets haste. Green gets to pressure planeswalkers and opponents. You get Wicked Wolf. You know what I mean? Like you get the best mana ramp. You get the best creatures. You get creatures with abilities that don't make sense in context of the format. You get the best selection, and then once you pair it with a little bit of blue, you get the best possible planeswalker. The second or third best planeswalker in Nissa, and Nissa is definitely showing itself in Pioneer at least to be a real force as well.
Yeah,
and you also get Hydro Krasis.
Yeah, probably.
And you don't really have to play blue.
Nope.
Like, that's the thing. You don't really have to play blue. With your Gilded Goose, you barely have to play blue.
Mm-hmm.
What other blue cards are you really trying to play in that deck besides Aether Gust to stop opponents?
And now I don't know, they showed the deck list for the upcoming like MPL split, and it's 7 out of 8 decks are food lists, and many of them are playing like main deck Aether Gust or Noxious Grasps, which is no, that's bad.
No, it's very bad.
That is bad. If that is not a format that I want to have exist as it stands. So, but yeah, Standard's in a bad place. And everyone knew it was going to be in a bad place once they decided like, no, we'll not do anything to hurt like these food lists. And I think like by WotC not doing that, they're just taking themselves up for another ban. Like that's all they're doing. And I don't know what the disconnect is. I don't know if it's people not. I can't imagine them like. They have to be losing money by not doing anything, by their inaction, rather than like taking action. Like
I was hoping that this field ban, this new ban, as we said before, would reduce the standard ban stigma, but it seems like they're still just scared, and you got to rip the Band-Aid.
I don't see like what the idea is if you're going to like. If this is where like Magic Design's going, like if these are the cards that you're going to make, then like guess what? Some of these cards are just
too good
for standard. Or like you're not approaching how you're designing these formats. Like if you thought that like Murderous Rider was somehow going to keep Oko in check, it's like it ain't.
And again, like that goes into the same issue when I just talked about in Modern. Like in Standard, your best Planeswalker answer is you still have Assassin's Trophy, so you could be playing that.
Yep.
And then you have Murderous Rider, which is 3 mana, costs you 2 life, and they've already got to tick up.
Yep.
You're seeing a bunch of decks in Standard adopt like Lil Vraska, right? Because it still kills it cleanly. But then your best answer to 3 mana Planeswalker is a 4 mana Planeswalker.
Yeah.
Cool format. And once again, the only colors in both Modern and Standard that get to cleanly answer Oko still are green. and I think maybe at some point we can have a broader conversation about Planeswalkers in general. And War of the Spark, they sort of promised that Planeswalkers would get more consistent ways to answer them. Obviously, the combat step's the best way to do it. Oko strongly discourages that.
Yeah.
Like, it more than just defending itself, it strongly discourages anybody from using the combat step because creatures are bad, outside of the questing beast, I guess. But Planeswalkers are in every color, right? And consistently multiple colors have just a real hard time dealing with them, and it feels like they still don't know what to do as a card type with them. It's not artifacts or enchantments. Like, okay, well, blue gets just bounce these things. Well, like blue only getting to bounce Planeswalkers when you make Planeswalkers that only tick down, you create an inherent flaw that makes blue worse. Same with white and enchantment based removal. Like, you are again asking me to remove Planeswalkers that only get value by setting them back up. So I don't know when you start looking at the format, like when you make a card like Oko, but then all the cards that are the best against Oko are green. Well, the format just becomes a cannibalizing mess.
Yeah, it just means that you have to play green in whatever you play. Like
right, so it's a cannibalizing mess. So then you have people literally playing multiple sideboard only cards in their main deck, as you mentioned. So it doesn't make any sense looking on the outside looking in, and I don't know where they're missing on the inside. They've got a lot of smart people doing this.
I think that I don't know. Like I don't know if they're just not pushing, or maybe they have. I don't know. There's a lot of different ways you could take it. Maybe they're giving players more credit as to like figuring it out. Like maybe they're just being like, oh well, this exists, but like people will just do other things and not like do the most inherently powerful thing when that is never true.
Players are like us, and they care about the health of the format, so they will play only to the health of the format.
Right, and it's just like I just don't know where the disconnect is. Like I don't know if you're on play design team and not just trying to do the most powerful thing, and maybe that's not what you're paid for. Maybe like the future league isn't paid for you to figure out what the most powerful thing is and be like, okay, this is the most I figured it out. This is the most powerful thing, and maybe they're thinking it's going to take longer for us to figure that out. Maybe the power of like literal millions of people playing their game breaks it too fast, and they tried to do that, break that down with the ubiquity, like the less like access to data, and it's still not working. And because you can restrict people's access to data, but when you're not the only source of data, then that only goes so far. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I think that in many ways that like a lot, like WotC has multiple different formats in a bad spot, and like just introduced a new format that is the best part about it is the fact that they're going to be rapidly banning things from it, like once they're determined to be broken, and other formats that might be like fine are completely inaccessible.
Yeah.
So it's hard. I think it's kind of hard to be a Magic fan. I know that we've recently gotten some negative feedback about our opinions and like our sort of like where we're at with Magic, but I think like it's hard. It's just hard to be a fan of like something that is either like standard completely warped and modern on a potentially troubling path, or completely inaccessible like Legacy and Vintage. And I think that's why we gravitate towards Brawl. I think like when you look at Brawl, especially realistically, like even if Oko is a problem, you can still like figure out ways to exploit that deck, right? Because you don't have the same like four-ofs, like you don't have the same access to things. Your deck has inherent weaknesses, and like there was an article in Star City Games by Sunnyvale, I forget his actual name, but he literally had deck lists. They're like, this is how you can combat Oko. Like they have certain limitations. He breaks them down as what their limitations are, and like here's how you can exploit them and build decks to like combat that. And I don't know if that's you can't do that in standard. Because it just doesn't work that way. But at least in something like Brawl, you have that accessibility, like you have that advantage, and maybe you don't want, and it's still a problem because you're still limiting yourself on what decks are accessible. Like there's some decks you just can't play in the face of Oko, so maybe you don't want to build a deck that is built to beat a certain thing. So like that's still a problem. Don't get me wrong. And like we've even as a play group have like made ways to like cheat that, right? We have 5-card sideboards, and we have house rules and things like that to like prevent these things from like being a problem, and it's healthy. It's what works, I think like it's just tough. I think it's just tough to be here and like be an advocate for Magic when like they just keep messing up, and it's just hard to have like a format that you enjoy, and it's just like I couldn't blame anyone for not liking any format right now that is popular, like absurdly popular, like standard or modern. So I don't know. It's tough.
You feel a little better now?
I think so.
The one thing I would say, it's easy. It's also still easy to love Magic because Magic is Magic.
Yeah,
and I mean that sounds really generic, but like
I think it's easy to like. I think it's easy to love Magic if you're playing it on your own terms. Like if you're.
But here's the thing: when we're done recording this, I'm gonna want to go to bed. I also might want to play some Magic. Like that's just where it is, and I think like the game always has the allure, even if the design isn't perfect at a given time.
But like, what are you gonna play though?
I don't know. I'm probably going to go to bed. But if I was going to play, I'd probably tonight play either Brawl or no. I can't play Brawl. So Pioneer.
Pioneer.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about Pioneer a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. We're getting along on the tooth on this one.
We
just got
to
Pioneer.
We've gotten into a little bit of a heated argument. It's going to be exciting for the people.
We did. Yeah, that's fair. I can't wait for them all to be like, oh my gosh, Morgan just doesn't understand.
Probably. I mean, like I frequently don't understand. So like, why would it be different today?
You're much like all the parents in every Will Smith song.
That's very true. So we had our first deck dump for Pioneer, as well as a Pioneer Challenge that happened over the weekend. And realistically, I just wanted to cover some highlights. So in the challenge, we had Sultai and Izzet lists show up, and that's Izzet Phoenix and sort of Sultai mid-range. The cards kind of showing up there. Obviously, Oko and Sultai, as well as Dig Through Time. But it was like a lot of like mainstays of like black-green decks of years past. You had your Course of Crew Fixer Scavenging Oozes. We saw Jace of Rin's Prodigy showing up in many of these lists.
Yeah. Also, Like, depending on the list, but a lot of times you have, even the main of the sideboard, but some of Kalitas.
Oh, yeah.
That card's still a beating.
Yeah, for sure. It's just one of the best, like, creature cards, like anti-aggro cards that kind of exist. It just also is kind of just a nice mid-range threat that generates a lot of advantage. And especially when you're looking at a format like Phoenix being popular, like, it makes sense that Kalitas kind of shows up and can do work. And with the removal that exists within the format, some of these creatures can like kind of exist and not, die to path or something like that. They can kind of, and not saying Kalitas wasn't at certain times played in Modern or whatever, but definitely something that to look at. What do you think about some of these the Phoenix lists? I think both of us have played some version of Phoenix or another. It's kind of exciting that you can still like have a place for Phoenix to exist. I mean, it's not clean, but it's here.
It certainly has some things I like, which includes Treasure Cruise,
obviously,
and Fiery Temper. I do think that it just doesn't. Its card drawing mechanisms are not great with Chart a Course and Strategic Planning. Chart a Course is fine, but you're stuck playing like 4 Is It Charms as your bad Faithless Looting.
Yeah.
So you're obviously just a lot slower than you are in Modern.
But that's fine. I think that's fine.
I think the other thing is the most currently as the most ubiquitous removal spell is Fatal Push. So I think that Thing in the Ice is just not super well positioned. So I don't know.
Potentially. I've watched it. I was watching Brian Overturf stream a little bit, and it definitely didn't die as often as you think. You don't always play against the Fatal Push deck, so like you don't always have that fear of it.
Sure.
Not to say that the Fatal Push decks aren't popular or anything like that. Don't get me wrong, but it's still against certain archetypes, certain things that can actually deal with it effectively. Like we still are existing in a format where like 3 damage is probably where you're tapping out most of the time, and you're probably playing 2 mana for that. So like, Wild Slash is your premium 1 mana red spell. So
this gets Lightning Axe and Fiery Temper, and it can deal with a lot of things. Yeah. I think the deck is definitely powerful. I also I honestly like the mana base. Obviously, being enemy colors, it gets to play a lot of duels, and this deck really wants duels. So it wants to be able to shift what color it's working with. So I like it. I like the sideboard plan with the Planeswalker, Chandra Torch of Defiance and Royal Scions. I think like if you like the strategy, you're happy to know that this is viable in some capacity.
Another strategy that people are probably going to be pretty happy is viable is the 4th placed in the Challenger list, which is Mono Blue Devotion. Not Devotion. It's really just Mono Blue. Like
it's definitely Devotion.
Yeah, I mean, like you have Thassa, but
that's the you also have 4 Master Waves.
Master Waves, yeah. It's the 2 Devotion.
This is a Devotion deck. This is playing Tempest Djinn, and Tempest Djinn sequencing into Master Waves. That's not bad.
Yeah,
that's not bad.
But like when you can have a deck with 4 Quench in it and still have success, like
remember Mono Blue Devotion often didn't play Nykthos. It was still
right.
So.
You're right. I just think like Devotion equal Nykthos.
No, this deck is interesting, and like Quench is like the bad mana leak, but you probably would need something in this format. And I don't know that Spell Pierce is it as of yet. I really like the Brazen Borrowers in this list. Like, I like that card a lot, and it hasn't done as much in Standard, honestly, because it's not good against Oko. But I think that it really excels here as like a good flying threat in a deck that could use some evasion, obviously, but also just like the ability to play it as a spell and bounce is so backbreaking just often. I think this is also our first appearance of Smuggler's Copter in this event.
Yes.
And Smuggler's Copter is still, folks, it's still just as good. That card's just gross. I know I said obviously Fatal Push is good against the Thing in the Ice decks, and yes, it's still good against Smuggler's Copter, but there's a reason Smuggler's Copter got banned even when they printed Fatal Push. So, the card's obscene. And it's seeing a lot of play. I do want to point out here that the 1st place list, the 3rd place list, the 5th place list, the 6th place list. You see what I'm doing now.
Yeah, no, I understand. Like, there's obviously
the 7th place list and the 7th. So all those lists have between 2 and 4 Oko.
Correct.
So,
and to be fair, we did bring Pioneer to our previous conversation. It's certainly it's closer to Standard on the scale.
For sure. The other thing I will say though, these lists are all coming from one place and one place only. And that's Magic Online. Oko's $100 on Magic Online.
Yeah, you can also rent cards on Magic Online.
That's true.
More
That's
easily
true. That's
than
true.
you can in paper.
But it's important here that like the card's super expensive, so like when it shows up like this, it has to. You know what I mean? Like you have to have like obtained it in some fashion.
I'm not, and I won't disagree with you. Like Oko is definitely a very powerful force in Pioneer and is something to definitely be looked at. Because again, it's way closer to like access to answers to standard than it is to modern.
Right.
Like this format is going to be in a large amount of flux. So it's like I'm not like you like there's a ton of things that should not be in this format that are currently in it. So like Dig Through Time should not probably be Treasure Cruise should not probably be in this.
So Treasure Cruise hasn't seemed to have seen yet. Maybe these Phoenix decks do push it there, but it's still that's a slow card. The Dig Through Time feels like it's still because even at 4 mana, it's a real good card.
Yep.
Treasure Cruise though
we know it is. We have a 4 mana version.
That's true,
and that's still good.
Treasure Cruise you really want to get it into that 1 or 2 cost range. And it certainly isn't easier. And those decks, like those Phoenix decks, there's 2 in that top 8 of different builds. They can't play like Fabled Passage. So yes, you're putting a lot of cards in your graveyard, but you are a lot slower. I don't think it's that bad. Maybe the reason to look at things like Treasure Cruise is more the Ascendancy lists, which have been doing. There's a number of various Ascendancy lists in the 5.0 deck dump.
Yes,
but they're not in the top 8 here, which is nice. I think it's cool that you get vampires.
Yeah, that's in the 10th place list. That's a wild list. That's this one is a devotion list again.
This one actually has
Nykthos, but I mean, like you have also like Grey Merchant. Like you're kind of harkening back to that, but like, hey, there you go. You can play your Imperious Bloodlords still. Yeah.
I think the card that's cool here is Stromkirk Condemned.
Yeah,
it did not see play when it was in Standard, but it's kind of sweet. When you have it here, so discard a card, vampires you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. That is just a card that just didn't see play before and gets to see some play here. It's sad that there isn't really a lot to do with it, like you're not playing any of the madness enablers, but it's sweet. It's also a cool thing with like Castle Locthwain where you can like discard cards that are excess and then draw more cards with Castle Locthwain. Yeah. So 4 copies of that castle here. So yeah, if you like this kind of strategy, that's sweet. I think like a card that we forgot was kind of good and maybe it never saw the play we thought it would, but Draina, Liberator of Malak here is still a super powerful card. Like, when's the last time you thought about that card?
It's been some time.
2/3 first strike flyer for 3 mana. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, each attacking creature you control gets a +1/+1 counter. And again, it goes first strike, and then all your guys get bigger. So
yeah,
Draina's sweet. Draina's a sweet one.
It's very good with Sorin, right?
Oh gosh, yes it is.
Target creature you control gains Death Touch, Lifelink. Oh, and it was a Mayfly. Is that good?
Is the first strike?
Is first strike Death Touch good?
Yeah, so I think that's pretty sweet. As a deck, we see a lot of copies of another deck that might see itself get a ban, which is Copycat.
Yes, there are many flavors of a Copycat combo,
and it's all Saheeli's and Fairies.
Yes. So, that's definitely one of those things where it's like, you probably, we need to honestly get rid of Saheeli.
I guess Felidar Guardian though is that card that one of the reasons they banned that one in Standard too, like because that card would have been legal with Panharmonicon.
Yeah.
So
then like maybe it's both. Like to be perfectly honest, like
I forgot Panharmonicon's legal in Pioneer.
Sure is. But maybe it's both parts. Like I don't know.
Just take the copy and the cat.
Yeah.
I do think that there's a cool build. I know I posted a picture of it that was just like it actually didn't have. I think where is it at now? But it was closer to. Granted, it didn't have the monument, but it was closer to the like mono white monument decks. Oh, what am I thinking of? Here it is. It's for Saheeli Horizon. It's like Charming Prince, Cloud Blazer, Felidar Guardian, Elite Guard Mage, Reflector Mage. Like I was like, oh yeah. So it needs what was the 3 mana artifact? Catcher's Monument. That's the one. Yeah. Like that's the only card I don't see here that I'm like, I could see that card here, but it's like, but I don't. I really don't understand the lack of Teferis in this list. It probably just needs Teferi. So, but it is playing Dusk Dawn.
That sounds sweet.
So that's a cool one. So I think it's an interesting build. the other real big deck we see here in a lot of different forms are mono green
Devotion,
and Ramp. I'm impressed with the card Leyline of Abundance.
Yeah,
and how obscenely powerful it is in these decks.
Sure is.
So,
I mean, like, that's a card that you can open in standard packs, which is kind of exciting, and it just kind of does everything that you want it to do with like a critical amount of like these mana creatures. You're playing 8 elves because you have Elvish Mystic and Llanowar Elves,
and you also have Sylvan Caryatids.
And Caryatids, which is pretty absurd as well.
Yeah, Sylvan Caryatid is just really good. We have Paradise Shroud, which is very good. But I forgot how good Sylvan Caryatid is. It's just like, man, you block everything.
Yeah.
You can't be touched. Like,
it always has hexproof. Yeah, it's just, yeah.
But yeah, these decks like, going into like Nissa's and like look at all these. Like this is what's scary about some of these decks. Like look at all the standard cards that are here with Nissa, with the Leyline, with Voracious Hydras being a consistent play for those decks. Mm-hmm. It's kind of interesting. And of course, Castle Garenbrig is also pretty good. Yeah. So. That's definitely interesting. Things like Polychronos are still good. Still really good with Nykthos. Mm-hmm. And also a card that was never legal with Nykthos in Standard, but is now legal in this format together. Walking Ballista and Nykthos. Real good. Real good.
Lots of mana. Lots of mana into a colorless creature that gets real big.
So, and there are some other strategies that are hanging out here. I know I myself have been playing a vehicles list, and there's a couple of different vehicles lists that are hanging out here. There's a heroic list in 25th place, which is kind of cool because you get to do things like favorite hoplite in the same deck as like Feather and 10th District Legionnaire. So they finally get to like do the muscly arm. Handshake thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, like this list, and like you get to play like Dreadhorde Arcanus now, which is
yeah, and like some of the cards you get instead, like Johnny's Presence, you get Defiant Strike, you get Titan Strength. So,
you definitely get a lot of fantastic things that are going to be really.
I will say one deck that I've seen a couple of times that I'm unhappy that I keep seeing. 27th place, 4 Basara Tower Archer, 4 Glade Cover Scout, 2 All the Glitters, 4 Cartouche, 4 Ethereal Armor, 4 Griffs. Yeah, it's hexproof.
A hexproof strategy, you say.
Yeah, that's cool.
Now, if you want a way to beat Oko, I'm just saying.
Yeah, you can't turn them into elk.
No elk boys over here.
I guess that works. You've got to, oh gosh, playing like madcap skills in this deck. I guess you're stretching. Honestly, you're stretching for me on this one.
I know.
Like,
I understand.
Dear Lord, this is not. These decks aren't good. Please don't play them. You get to play worse enchantments. You get to play worse creatures because one of your creatures costs 2 mana.
Yep.
You have to play bad mana, and you also don't get to use your lands to draw cards. Please don't play this deck. I'm begging you. Please don't. So
that's probably true.
Yeah, I do like the Boros Charms here though. That's kind of sweet. The Boros Charms are just like, I'll double strike my guy.
Yeah, cool. I mean, yeah.
There's a mono white aggro deck. If you look there in 28th place.
Yep.
Like to see Brave the Elements. Forgot that was legal in this format. So
delicious.
Morgan, I think this deck actually should appeal to you.
Delicious.
Knight of the White Orchid, man. Remember that card was playable?
Yes.
I don't think it's playable in this format, but God bless them. So we'll see. I think there's a lot of cool things in this format that we're looking at. Oh God, 30th place. That's 4-pack rats.
I don't know if that's playable. I don't know if that's what you want to be doing in the format.
I don't know if you skip out on that removal. There it is.
All right.
So, interesting though that like there are definitely some energy strategies. Mostly they're energy adjacent, like they was playing like a tune. Not a lot of Marvel though, and I think people were worried about that. But I played 4 leagues now in Pioneer, and haven't seen a Marvel deck.
I just don't think it's as. I'm not saying it isn't good. Like theoretically, it is good, but I just don't think it's as. I don't think it's good enough. Maybe not.
I mean, you actually get. What, Ulamog and Emrakul at the same time? Which, did we ever have those? I guess we did, right?
Yeah.
No, because that would have been battle. Right, I guess that was altogether. I forgot they went back on their format shifting there. So I guess you did, but I know Emrakul got banned.
Yeah.
But yeah, Emrakul and Ulamog together as your targets. That's interesting, but yeah, maybe it just isn't good enough.
I just don't think it is. Like,
here I will say definitely not right now. And let's be honest, that's because the Aetherflux Reservoir becomes an elk.
Oh yeah,
like
Aetherworks Marvel. Yeah,
Aetherworks Marvel. Sorry, whatever. Reservoir is the Aetherflux Reservoir, right? Yeah. Whatever it is, it becomes an elk. Elk life.
Maybe that probably contributes to it. I don't disagree, and like I don't say people aren't playing it. I don't know if they're just having success with it. If that's, I think that's
fair. I'm interested to see what comes after this event being the first deck dump. I am a little worried about the Sultai decks because that's the Sultai decks and the Saheeli decks being just a conglomeration of the best cards. You know, that's what we were sort of worried about when we first like heard the format. Like, you know, and like of course people are going to go to the best cards.
Yeah.
But other strategies have to like show their viability, and right now I don't know how that's going to work just yet. So the format will continue to sort itself out, but the good stuff / combo decks they're powerful. Real powerful, and hopefully an actual metagame can start to take place, take shape around them.
And like this is just Magic Online data. This is like clearly very like super early in the format.
Nothing's
been banned, and we know bans are going to be coming. Like
that's the other important part here too, because but when you look at the Saheeli deck, that makes sense. You ban combo cards, but like when you look at the Sultai list, like what's your accent? Dig Through Time, right?
Yeah, that's where I would start.
So, you know, that's interesting.
Because,
JVP?
Maybe?
Yeah, I just...
Maybe?
You know,
again,
they said they're going to be aggressive with this, so I'm just interested to see what that means.
I don't think, people are, even if you were looking at Oko, I don't think people are necessarily wrong to, have that leaning.
Yeah.
It's...
Especially in Modern. I mean, Pioneer.
In Pioneer, yes. Specifically in Pioneer. And Standard. Again, when we're looking at the needle, where it leans, Pioneer definitely leans more towards Standard.
But it's so early, Morgan.
It is. And I'm not saying that's where I would go to first. I would definitely look at I would reflect upon what's already been banned, right? I think that makes sense. Now, if you ban, Oko and Standard, well then that's where you can look, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I would start with Dig Through Time. I would at least start with that.
We'll let Pioneer, steam a little bit. We've got some PTQs now in the next couple of weeks, so we'll see.
At the very least, I'm interested to see where it goes. I've gone through and I've taken all my I have a lot of cards. Hilarious. I have a whole box just full of Amonkhet Standard right here, and I'm glad I kept all of these. I guess because they're all good and they're all could be playable. So it's it is literally a format that exists for the entire time that I've played Magic, and that's an interesting thing to expose into the world because I just have a lot of cards that are legal in the format.
Yeah.
And that's exciting. And look at Modern. Why would I be interested in Modern? Look at Standard. Why would I be interested in Standard? Pioneer actually comes around a time to keep me somewhat interested in developing format when I don't have to I'm not at all engaged in either formats I usually care about. So I have Pioneer and I have Brawl, and that's good, I guess. If I didn't have it, then I'd be cool, Brawl's fun. I'm interested to see where it goes. I hope they are aggressive with it. They aren't going to get it right, which is unfortunate, but I think a lot of what the format can be is... I think it can have more potential than something like Modern in the end. I think it can.
Maybe, I don't know.
I think the way that they choose to act about Modern, maybe that's the way they'll choose to act about Pioneer later on, right? But they just let things fester in Modern so.
Yeah, well, they say they're going to be aggressive about banning, so we need to wait and see what that
Sure, and that means. Of course,
I think right now my fear for Pioneer is showing true, which is the most optimized version of the best strategies, either the best cards or the best strategies we've seen in Standards past coming to fruition in multiple devotion decks, in the Sultai good stuff and the Saheeli combo deck. We see energy being a major element. We see combo planeswalkers being a major element. We see delve cards being a major element, and we see devotion being a major element. So right now, that doesn't feel new or original to me. That feels like the things I've already been dealing with, for a while, and I was ready for them to be gone anyways when they left. So, if they are again liberal with the bannings, then we'll see. But right now, Pioneer, I think, is showing me what it's probably going to be, and I'm fine with it. I'm not opposed to it. I'm trying out the format, but I'm like, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah, I think again, it's something I'm definitely more interested in than Modern currently.
I'd say I'll just keep playing Bant Snowblade and Modern. I don't care.
Yeah.
Give me all the Stoneforge Mystics. It's fine. I'll defy everybody. So certainly, I would say I think we could both agree on. I'm so sorry if you play Standard. Anyways, go to Comic Town this weekend. Whoops! I dropped on Morgan shares.
How dare you?
Play in the Standard PTQ. Yeah. And I'm serious. Please go and do that because I won't.
100%.
So
and then so leading into what's happening over the weekend is
sorry, Morgan's wife opened the door and it just scared the daylights out of me. I'm very tired.
He's very spooked. We also have GP Leon and Nagoya, which are both Standard as well. So got a lot of data for
data
for next week, just in case.
I hope they start interviewing people who didn't play Oko. Like, you made a bad decision on purpose. Why?
Why would you do this? So. Yeah, we'll take a look at see what happens over the weekend at those tournaments. But we don't have anything Star City this weekend. No Modern, but hopefully more Pioneer information.
This person couldn't afford $400 worth of Okos, but paid $100 to play in the tournament. What a fool!
But that's going to be everything for us this week. If you want to reach out to us, you can. We have Twitter. It's Your End Step, and when you add us, it's at Your End Step. We also have Facebook. It's facebook.com/@YourEndStep, and we have email. It's @YourEndStep@gmail.com. Thank you so much to, of course, Comic Town for being our lovely sponsor. You can check them out at Comic Town on Facebook or worldofcomictown.com. If you're listening to us via legit MTG, thank you so much for checking out the show and check out some of the other articles they have there on the website. Of course, want to give a quick shout out to our patrons over at patreon.com/@YourEndStep. Thank you so much for supporting the show. If you if you're listening to us via a podcast app that lets you leave a rating or review, we would appreciate it if you did so. We think that we're a 5-star podcast, even though we just complain about Magic on a weekly basis. But that's going to be everything for us this week. You have a great one. Bye.